Alright, and now we're actually going to start the game proper.
Hey, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Final Fantasy VIII, Mega Man Collection, Aladdin and Lion King. There's some positivity.
Let's play all those good games.
And Jack Axe was also there.
That too, yeah, I like that game better than this one.
Also, to be fair, like we said in Part 0, the gameplay of this game is actually good, so technically it is a...
We'll get to it. Don't worry, Shiro. I'll have plenty of times to mention that. Don't worry.
I think that bass from Ellie says it all, pretty much. The hatred surrounding this game.
Well, Joe, but this is a game about hatred, so it's all about you hating the game. Apparently.
I mean,
I'm not quite sure that's what they meant.
Yeah, it's like... this game is about hate. We hate it. No, that's not what I meant.
Anyway, alright everybody. Again, to start with something positive, let's discuss the accessibility settings that this... Well, actually, the title
we'll get to the music.
The title screen doesn't have music, so it only has the water sound effect. Anyway, alright.
The water sound effects are good. There's some positive bits.
Hang on, no, we're actually going to talk, despite Jova's sarcasm, we are about to get to something very positive.
Last of Us Part 2 is quite possibly the most customizable game I have ever seen. It allows me to customize pretty much everything. Look at the HUD. I can turn off the HUD. I can basically... There's a hint system that helps you if you get lost. Like, you can turn off status effects. You can turn off weapon and ammo display.
Customize the story.
Unfortunately not.
I wish. I hear that you can also... I believe you can also customize...
allow me, Jova. Okay, so, for the subtitles, we're going to customize accessibility settings to Shiro's needs in particular. This is the small subtitles, just to show off how they look. Usually I play with medium-sized subtitles. However, for the purposes of making things a bit easier on Shiro, we're going to use large subtitles.
Oh.
We're also going to have a darkened background behind the subtitles to make them easier to read. We're not gonna have the names because nobody here has any trouble telling who's talking anyway, so we're gonna turn that off. The color will remain white because Shiwei told me that the color white is fine.
Yes, for context, me and Pedro discussed this outside of the recording, just so we could make this as smooth as possible.
You know, it's weird. Why is it often the worst games we commentate on that have actually interesting features like Quantum Break?
Here's the meat of it, Jova. Accessibility.
Switch off the music.
Alternate control. You can customize controls completely. Literally remap all buttons. You can equip auto pickup. You can do melee, and then also magnification and visual aids. Much like we can zoom in on the screen. However, I'm not going to be using that feature because it doesn't serve our purposes for this playthrough. There you go. Screen magnifier. You can use the touchpad to basically zoom in on the screen. So people who have problems seeing, like Shiroi, would use this feature, most likely.
Like, for example, I wouldn't use it in a general sense, but Naughty Dog games tend to have a lot of exploration, especially the more recent ones. So if I was in a room and I needed to look for something or get a closer look at a puzzle, you know, say in an Uncharted game, a feature like this would be very useful so I could get an actual look at it.
For the purpose of Shiroi, we're going to have a larger HUD with a darkened background behind the HUD, just like the subtitles. Unfortunately, this image doesn't show the darkened background, it only shows the larger HUD. I don't know why they couldn't customize that image to do that as well, but whatever. Whatever, it works. Motion sickness. You might remember, everybody, how usually when there's blood splatter or there's hurting, there's usually a little red filter, or you see the blood splatters on the screen. However, we can turn off these full screen effects because, and I'm going to turn them off because they're a bit distracting for Shiroi, so we're going to turn them off. The Last of Us games have a life bar, so I don't need those. In Uncharted, I need those so I can tell when I'm being hurt. However, for Last of Us, since the game has life bar, that's okay. I don't need them. I can turn them off. And we can also turn off the camera shake, the motion blur. We can also...
Which I typically don't turn off unless I'm having a particularly bad
Here's
day.
something you'll like, Bips. There's a navigation assistance function. Basically, just press L3 and the game will flat out have an arrow pointing you where to go. Go here. Basically.
Go here. I command it.
I think it points to story, main plot specific things.
We also have a text-to-speech and audio things where, basically, there's an audio. It's basically it's the video game equivalent of an audio description track, basically.
Also, Pedro kind of skimmed over it, but there's also the combat accessibility, where you can tweak the enemy AI to quite a bit here and
Exactly. You can basically... Here's an interesting thing, Debs. You can turn on a skip puzzles option and an infinite breath option. So those who have trouble watching underwater, playing underwater, can just have infinite breath to make them...
There's also a high contrast mode, which puts enemies a different color, objects a different color, and your character a different color.
Yes. Yes.
And you can also tweak how enemies will react to you taking out other enemies here and there, or like if they'll become
so yeah,
more.
This could be a great thing for future Sony games, and even
this is
to build on.
No, this is a great thing for the industry as a whole.
Seriously, industry. If you need to take anything from this game,
beyond.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that part. But I would like to say. This is fantastic because not only is it near perfect, there are a couple of things missing, which I'll explain later on, but it basically renders every criticism of accessibility in video games mute. Like, this here exists. People are still calling this game a work of art, so accessibility settings do not
I'm going to have to interrupt you there, Shirai.
Sure.
Okay, here's my about to say some positive stuff. The music is actually pretty good.
Oh, don't worry, Jova. I'll bring it up myself when it starts. Little recap for a reminder.
Hi, first game. You were pretty good. You were very good.
There's also one problem I have with the graphics of these flashbacks, by the way, and I'm going to point out in a moment.
Business. Maybe I just want to do right by her. And then we made it. We found the firefighter. Because of her, they were actually going to make a cure. The only catch. It would kill her. Sweet Jesus. Doctor? What are you
Okay, pay attention to this scene.
Not just that, Jova. Look at the face they put on Joel during this recreation. Like, yeah, keep that face in mind for later.
Jesus Christ, Joe. What'd you do? I saved her.
Yeah, but it took a bit out of the hospital in the process.
Come on, baby girl. I got you.
So, Shira, what do you think? Do the subtitles look good?
Oh yes, a lot better.
So, once again, Joel returns, played by Troy Baker, who now has his own set of controversy, but for the sake of...
Sorry, go on.
Basically, let's just say he's not taking the criticism all that well.
No.
I mean, isn't that part of being an actor, taking criticism?
Well, that's the thing, Dwebs.
It's not criticism of his acting.
It's not criticism of his acting, Dwebs.
But if he's like that, taking criticism, like what he's been getting recently, I can't imagine what he's like. When someone's trying to direct him, like saying, "No, that's not how you should perform that bit."
I honestly thought he was better than this, but no, he did resort to quoting Theodore Roosevelt to try and do the old, "Oh, you're not a game developer, so you have no right to criticize game developers."
Wait, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of his posts, but not that one.
Look at Ellie's face here. Okay, do you guys
using bits from the PS4 version?
No, Dubs. That was made specifically for this game. That's not footage from the PS4 remaster at all. That's not footage from the first game. However, if you go back and watch the face on the first game, Ellie's PS3 face on that shot looks better. I'm not even kidding you. I have no idea what the hell is that face, but I'll show it to you audience at the end of this. Don't worry. I'm not even showing it to my co-commentators. But let's just say I'm not a big fan of the graphics in this game. I don't know what the hell happened to the graphics of this game. I know that goes against what everybody else is saying, but I'm not particularly. I don't think this game looks particularly great.
I'll say I feel like this game is shot well. I'm not too sure about the graphics because the things I focus.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, Gustavo's guitar.
Hi ho! Nah. I actually like that. Well, the horse gameplay is fine.
Well, I mean, it's hard to fuck up riding a horse.
You'd be surprised.
In a video game, I should say.
Beyond Two Souls, just saying.
Beyond Two Souls found a
I
way.
mean, you know, well, Pedro, controlling a horse there, that's a bit of an overstatement.
That's the thing. You technically do control that horse, yes, but the controls are so on the rails, it's not fun. Although, speaking of which, what am I talking about? Fun wasn't advertised for this game. Okay. While I do get what Neil Druckmann meant when he said it, I'll say this. Saying that your game is not going to be fun is not a good advertisement for your game.
Yeah, ask Kojima how well people took that when he said it.
Okay, let me put it this. Say what you will about, yes, certain moments in the game being very heart-wrenching or heartbreaking, but what people still play for it is to have fun in the long run. For as heart-wrenching as the scenes in Resident Evil 3 Remake are, people still play that game to have fun. For as heart-wrenching as Last of Us the first game could get, people still played that to have fun. Now, don't get me wrong.
Even on a more mundane scale, people play games like Football Manager, all you're doing is basically going for a bunch of menus for fun.
Yeah,
the thing is... Oh, sorry.
Go on.
No, the thing is, I had heard that Neil is... Because it's funny you mentioned this. I had heard that Neil is not very amused at the fact that some people are saying that this game is fun because the gameplay is still fun, supposedly. And he's just not very happy about that for some reason. It's like, well, why did you make it? Why did you make it fun?
I actually have a point to make about that, Shiroi, but I'll save it for
sure.
later.
What you said does make me want to bring up a point, though. I think one thing some game developers need to realize is when it.
I want you to hear this though. Also, that music was beautiful, by the way. That was playing right just now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
About what we were talking about earlier. Can't say I'd have done different. I'll take it to the grave if I have to.
Thanks, Tommy.
Who?
Tommy, his brother.
Oh, I know. I'm missing.
So who's playing Tommy here?
The same actor from the first game. I forgot his name.
Also, since I'd probably be quite a while discussing it anyway, I'm actually going to save my thoughts on the accessibility stuff for my final thoughts. It's probably the best place for it.
Sure.
Anyway, going back to what I was saying, one thing game developers need to realize is that there's a difference between a video game and a movie. A movie I can get not being fun because you have absolutely no control. But one thing game devs need to realize when they say we're not supposed to have fun, it's kind of impossible not to have fun unless the game is actually bad. Because per se, yes, characters may feel bad about killing enemies, but think about it like this. For a lot of gamers, it's like the equivalent to multiplayer, You play it to kill them. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll go cuckoo crazy like some soccer moms would think, but there still is that designation. I'm going to say it. I feel like this game is held back by being a game, and it feels like what they wanted to make was more akin to a movie for this.
Jervy, you mentioned we don't have control over movies, and yet recent examples are kind of trying their best to avert that.
Well, that's kind of my point with some of the issues of this game. Like,
I'm pretty sure.
I meant audiences not having control over movies, and yet look how the Sonic movie. Yeah.
You know, it's ironic. You actually do have the proper amount of control you would expect as a game in this one. But honestly, that's kind of the issue here. Well, at least with what Naughty Dog expect us to feel. I'll just say this. It's a difference between what's actually a problem and what Naughty Dog consider, well, what Neil Druckmann considers a problem, apparently.
I will also make a point about that, Jova, but after this scene, because I want us to be able to enjoy
Of
the scene.
course.
So basically, buddy, what's your... Yeah, there you go. Tommy told a joke that made Joel think about Ellie. Let's see what it is.
Hey, Ellie, you still have your joke book?
He's still gonna tell the joke just in a moment, though. This is like a few days, I think, after the ending of the first game, if I remember correctly.
I want to show you something. Just give me 1 second.
I'll admit, I do love the scenes between Joel and Ellie.
Well, yeah, this is kind of, the relationship that people actually give a crap about. And look at that, guys. You might remember how towards the end of the first game, Joel did say that he was going to teach Ellie how to play guitar.
Haha.
To be the guitar.
Dwibs, question. Well, no, what am I talking about? No, you don't remember. Shiro, do you remember what was the other thing? Is it that one thing that Ellie really wanted Joel to do for her?
Sing?
Sing to her. You might remember that, right? And
Yes.
and look at that. He's about to sing to her. So there you go. We finally get the payoff for that. So that's nice, actually.
I'm gonna be honest. If this game was literally just Ellie growing up and she and Joel having to have these father-daughter moments, game would have been infinitely better. Like, yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, allow me to explain this. In order to play this game actually has it's also kind of a guitar simulator in the sense that you point the analog stick towards the white thing and then you just strum on your touchpad to play the guitar. And you keep doing this until the game starts the cutscene, basically. I don't really get... this doesn't even come close to simulating the actual act of playing a guitar, so I don't really understand the point of this, but whatever.
Cinematic action?
And Troy Baker can sing.
Symbolic lyrics.
Well, I mean, he's I don't know. I haven't really heard much of his singing, but I have heard him play the guitar in that song that they do in BioShock Infinite.
What's most
I
impressive?
Oh my god, I just realized a similarity between this and BioShock Infinite. Daughter figure sees father figure who's strumming guitar, especially for, well, okay, it's technically DLC, but the DLC functions as a sequel to the campaign. So, yeah, there's actually quite a few similarities between this sequel and BioShock Infinite Burial at Sea, now that I think about it.
Also, I did check this out before when I first saw this scene. Troy Baker does sing. Like, he has released, like, collaborations with other people and such. So, yeah, he
Nice.
knows what he's doing.
What's most impressive to me, though, Shiro, is that he's not singing in his normal voice. He's singing in his Joel voice, which is very different than his normal voice.
That's a sign of good acting chops when, people can do certain things while they're in another voice, like being able to imitate a voice while they're already voice acting, or being able to sing while in, that other tone of voice.
All right, here we go.
She's yours.
No. I don't know the first thing about
Promise
this.
that I teach you how to play.
True. He
And
did.
Joel keeps his promises.
He did.
So what do you say, tomorrow night? First lesson?
One thing that I also like about this scene is that the awkward state that we left at the end of the first game is still here. Ellie's still a bit a bit doubtful about what happened, and Joel is still a bit, and Joel, of course, is still a bit apprehensive about the future from now on. There you go. Do you remember the joke? Let's see.
What is the downside to eating a clock?
Mm-hmm.
It's time consuming.
But
Sounds!
I actually thought it was funny.
oh, of course you would, Shuri.
Says the guy who ends up in his joke jail the most out of us, Dwibs.
Yeah.
I think we kind of gave up on the joke jail.
Well, actually, at this point, I built a whole city out of bad joke jails.
So starting tomorrow night, we will have Joel will teach Ellie singing. And now let's skip and now here's the title screen, and we're gonna skip forward 4 years.
Oh no, the beginning. Why did you have to come here? We were having a good time.
Unfortunately, Jova, the plot has to start, so yeah.
But the
Otherwise,
good part.
I mean, if there's no plot, then what's the point?
So a time skip, you know what that means, guys. It's time to age up the characters and, well, okay, I won't
Oh,
say
I actually find this scene somewhat funny as well. So.
I heard you had quite a night after I left.
Awkward.
It was just Dina being Dina. She didn't mean anything by it.
Oh, this one.
I was talking about your fight with Seth. Wait,
Oops.
you kissed Dina?
Oh,
Hold on.
Yeah,
Hold on.
here's
Hold on.
the...
I thought this was...
We're broken up 1 week and you make a move on my girl?
No. She was probably just trying to make you jealous. I would never...
Hold on. I like the payoff though.
I'm messing with you, man. I don't care. Get dressed.
Boy, he totally cares.
Oh, we've got more bigger things to worry about here. You
I'll
know?
just say this: what I don't care for how Ellie and Dina's relationship has started. It's the typical, oh, I used to
Hold on,
be
Jova.
boyfriend.
Look what Ellie has. A PlayStation 3.
Screen.
So there you
a
go.
dusty PS.
So yeah, they
Bobby.
managed to find an old PlayStation 3 from back before the apocalypse, and Ellie finally got to play a video game.
Clean
Is it
it.
wrong with the backwards compatibility?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, to be fair, it's not like.
And look at that,
Yeah,
Jova.
it's a fat model.
She has the Jack and Daxter HD collection.
Hey, Ellie, do you also have Last of Us for the PS3?
Unfortunately, we cannot see the other game behind it because there's no.
It's probably
to be fair,
Uncharted
it's
or
not-
something.
Yeah, to be fair, we're in the apocalypse. So we won't be able to make a PS4.
I'm just saying. I'm imagining that game there is Last of Us.
Chronologically speaking, the apocalypse took place in the year that the first game came out, 2013. So yeah, at the time, it was right before the PS4 was about to come out. Unfortunately, the apocalypse happened. So yeah,
The PS4 was indefinitely delayed.
indefinitely.
Okay, like I said, now back to one issue I have. I don't really care for how Ellie and Dina's relationship is one of those typical and cliched bouts of, hey, you used to be a boyfriend and girlfriend with this guy who says he's not jealous, but he's totally jealous. You know, like, seriously.
Well, Joe, to be fair, no. Actually, he genuinely means that. He doesn't care, and he never comes across as secretly caring. At least not in the story to me. I don't know. Like
I always got that inkling around that one scene where he acts a little annoyed at them sexing up here and there, but
Well, to be fair, Jova, like he himself says in that scene, they were supposed to be on patrol, so I'm gonna have to side with Jesse on that one. Come on, it's. Sure. Jova. Question, Shiro, can you see the triangle button properly there? Were you able to see it?
Roughly, yeah. I prefer it when they have them in the colors, though.
Yeah, that's the thing, Shiro. The button prompts also increase in size when I increase the size of the subtitle, so I was wondering if you would be able to see that prompt there.
Oh, yeah, I could. I just prefer it when they actually have the colors for them.
Sure. Go ahead,
Makes
Jova.
it a little easier in things like QTEs when your reaction time is required to be a little quicker than normal.
So basically, everybody, consider this playthrough also a lesson in accessibility, basically. With Professor Shiroi teaching the class. Oh, yeah, listen here. This is another yeah. Listen here. I want you guys to listen to this first before I...
More of a push.
good old Joel.
That part confused me.
It was a strange night, man.
Now, Dwibs, are you starting to notice a problem here? Because I am. They're telling us about what happened last night instead of actually, showing us.
Oh yeah, they forgot show don't tell.
Not just
And
that.
it's not. They will show us Twibs
that's the
much later
Basically,
on.
they're talking about that night that we saw, and this is exactly why I showed you the trailer clips. That they're talking about that night when Dean and Ellie had their first kiss in that party that we saw in Part 0. Here's the problem, Dwebs. In the actual final game, that scene only shows up in the last hour of the game. So basically, Dwebs, the first 30 minutes of this game is the characters talking about something that we never got to see. And this is exactly my first big problem with this game. Not to mention, and to give you an idea for later, Shiroi, later on they're going to talk about how even 4 years before Dina and Ellie were already secretly into each other. They just didn't have the guts to tell each other about it. So basically, Shiroi, when it comes to the history behind Dina and Ellie's friendship before it turned into love, there's a lot of telling and not much showing, and that's my main problem with this relationship. We're told about their history together instead of, seeing their history together. You know?
Like, as far as relationships go...
Hello.
As far as relationships go, Ellie and Dina are kind of generic of a couple. You know what I mean? It's just
there's nothing inherently wrong with their the actresses have decent enough chemistry. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just that there's nothing inherently noteworthy about it either. It's just there. It's just very. And considering we're supposed to care about these two, it's not really. It's kind of a problem. Go ahead, Jova.
I think a good way to put it is it feels more like the couple was set up to see what the story does with them, rather than for the characters to be actual characters.
Which is kind of bad, considering how much the first game was about interpersonal relationships.
Yeah,
exactly.
And now, we're about to start what I will turn into a running gag of this playthrough.
Oh God.
Oh boy, here we go.
Hang on, let it go. Let's see it.
Let's see it.
I don't want to hear what that bigot has to say. Do it for me.
You're probably wondering, Dwibs, what are we talking about? Bigot? What? Don't worry, Dwibs. We'll explain this. We'll explain this, Dwibs. An hour away from the ending of the game. So you're going to have to wait 30 parts before...
I think I can get what they said, because Ellie mentioned earlier.
Sure.
You said something not really nice.
Yeah.
And so I get what they're going at.
Yeah, he said something that I cannot say on air, but he did say it.
Don't worry. Well, the game will say it itself, and I will say it later on.
Yeah, Shiroi is allowed to say it, so we'll have her say it for us.
Let me just put it like this: it's like Final Fantasy 13. Hey, let's talk about the stuff that the audience clearly won't know about and act like we're clever by building up to it, supposedly.
Oh, hang on.
We're
about to get the line.
I love this one. Jesse's about to ask, so what did you want? So what would you got there?
Okay.
Let's just listen to this.
I appreciate that.
No.
Bigot sandwiches.
Who said
That's
this?
a new one.
No, seriously.
Bigot sandwiches.
Okay.
It's her standing up to him because, well, again, we don't know because we didn't see the scene, but we're to assume he's a bigot. So he gives you a sandwich, and that makes it a bigot sandwich.
And I've already kind of mentioned this, and me and Pedro kind of saw the full context at the same time. Ellie comes across as, on the surface level, Ellie might come across to some as quite unreasonable in this situation. When you get the full context, however, because it's not just the one thing that he called the two of them, it was other things he said also, it paints the situation in an entirely different light.
Unfortunately, we don't get to...
We're not getting that till the end.
Exactly.
Here's my question. Why did they wait that long? Even Final Fantasy 13 doesn't wait that long to explain stuff, so why wait till near the end for this one scene?
I have no idea what to tell you, Jova. I have no idea.
I guess you could argue maybe it's about what happens between her and Joel, but here's an idea. Why not just show off the bigot scene somewhat? You could... Okay, let's just say... I'm going to say right now, this game has a hard-on for flashbacks. Why did you not show a flashback right there and then of what he did to Ellie in particular? You could have had that done, and that would have been your way of showing.
Jesse's actually one of the few likable characters in this game for me. So,
does he die?
Obviously. Don't worry, audience. Trust me. Me spoiling it doesn't change anything because his death, it goes. Even the game doesn't give a crap that he dies. I assure
Like,
you.
he's a side character, so it's like.
Well, that's the thing. He's a side character who deserved so much better.
I totally get it. I felt bad.
Well, I
What
mean,
are
it's a
you
game
even
about
talking
death, so
about?
I'm guessing the issue is not that he dies, because in a world like this, anyone can die.
Don't worry, Dwebs. He dies on screen. If that's what
Now,
you're worried
okay.
about.
Now, okay. Now, folks, I get it. Sometimes there are some games that do hint at something that later is sort of a mystery that we need to find out. Here's the problem, though. The game does not really genuinely build up to this.
Hold on,
It's
Joe. I'm
not-
gonna have to interrupt you there. I love what Dina just said. So apparently, the reason Dina is into Ellie is because Ellie allows her to finish talking when she's talking. Interesting trait to like in a person. Go ahead.
I honestly, it seems like she's implying that. Sorry, what's his name?
The kid.
The boyfriend? No, the boyfriend.
Jesse.
The ex-boyfriend?
Jesse.
Yeah, it like from what she's implying, it seems like he might, cut her off a lot, talk over her, like that kind of.
What's with the music all of a sudden?
It's a playful moment, Dwibs.
thought
It's
it
a
was-
snowball fight.
I thought the main instrument was acoustic guitar.
Well, actually,
That's
Dibs, for this game, Gustavo had an additional composer, so maybe this one was made by him. Maybe. Where was it? Well, okay, this is the game's way of tutorializing you how the shooting mechanics work. Basically, you use the shooting mechanics to point the snowballs, and basically, it's the game's way of having a tutorial about how to aim and shoot.
Well, that's a fun way of doing it.
No. Yeah, no, like I said, the gameplay of this game is very good.
I'm just gonna say this, Shuri. Enjoy these lighthearted moments while you can get them.
Yep. Well, okay. There's nothing wrong with the calm before the storm trope. It's been used plenty of times and can lead to very effective stories. The problem is, this is not the calm before the storm. This is the calm before an entire year of storming.
This is like This is like the calm before 2012 when we thought it was going to end the world.
Um,
Oh, how wrong we were.
which 2012? The actual year or the movie?
Both.
I'll take advantage of this to also mention my point, expand upon my point that Jova was making. Okay, basically everybody. Okay, and even Brez brought up as well, so I'll add to it as well. Okay, basically everybody, to expand upon Jova's point about the whole fun game thing that he was talking about. Okay, so here's the thing. Even if you do think that Death Stranding's gameplay was not fun, and don't worry, if you do, that's fine by me. I have no problem with that. However, I will at least say this. When it comes to using the gameplay to put the player into the same mind state that the characters are, I would argue that at the very least, Kojima committed to the fact that he made the gameplay the way it was to reinforce the state of detachment that Sam has at the beginning of the game, in contrast to how he feels at the beginning of the game after he's finally reconnected with humanity and rediscovered his own humanity. So regardless of what you may think of the gameplay of Death Stranding, you have to at the very least give Death Stranding this. That game committed to actually blending the gameplay in accordance to the character's state of mind. Unlike this game, where the gameplay is completely separate from the emotions that the story wants you to feel.
Pretty much, yeah. I will say this right now, this opening is well crafted. Again, the stupid bits about them hinting at stuff that we won't get into way later into the game aside, it is nice to see how the world has kind of evolved into a relatively nice community.
Exactly.
Well, in the walls, anyway.
Basically, they've created a barrack of walls so they can, try to live a somewhat normal life within the circumstances as best they can.
This is one thing I actually do enjoy. Like, well, in the face of The Last of Us Part 1's ending, this game, at least this part of the game, does show that humanity may have found another way to survive and endure, even without that mystical cure that Ellie may or may not have even brought. Unfortunately, let's just say this kind of is, in a way, going to legitimize Joel's decision. Don't worry, though. This is the least of the things that legitimizes his decision thanks to this game.
Indeed. So yeah, and so now they're gonna go on patrol. So tune in next time, everybody, where a certain new character gets introduced that I'm sure Jove is aching to talk about.
I can't wait.
I'm sure you'll all love her.
Anyway, before we move on, everybody, okay. Did you remember how I pointed out when they recreated the scene of when Joel swears to Ellie and then Ellie goes like, okay. Remember how they showed that scene earlier with Ellie's face? Reminiscent of the iconic shot from the ending of the first game. Now take a look at at how it looked in the first game. Okay. By all means, maybe my eyesight is starting to fail with age, but I swear to you, the PS3 model face looks better to me. Because if you go back and compare, in fact, let me quickly compare Ellie's face as recreated in the flashback PS4 version compared to how the face looks in the original PS3 cutscene.
I'm no artist, but I definitely prefer the original image.
It looks like
I think I see the problem. It's like, well, the
it just
version
looks
in
like
this...
they softened up the character model from this game.
Yeah. I think part of the issue is like, well, in this game, it looks like it's using her older face model, but trying to touch it up to make it look like her younger self, which means it doesn't really look as natural because there's some notable wrinkles on the the more current quote-unquote model, whereas the original looks more natural.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't understand what the hell happened here, because if there's one thing Naughty Dog never failed at doing, is making their games look gorgeous. But I swear to you, and this is not the only time that I will bring this up, I find the graphics in this game kind of lackluster, to be honest.
It may just be me, but her hair looks off in this game's version compared to the PS3 version as well.
The PS3 original, but yeah, I know.
The PS3 original.
It's weird. I have no idea. How the hell does a PS3 model look better than a PS4 model?
And this is, I know your mileage may vary, especially if you are an artist, but we'll get more into this later. I won't speak much of it now, but this is a very, very negative aspect, considering what we know of the development of this game. The fact that, this, is seemingly turning out to, look lesser in appearance. This is just sad. It
is.
I hate this.
Kind of symbolic of what's to come, ain't it?
Anyway,
that expression can kind of sum up most people's thoughts on this game.
Exactly. So there you go.
Yeah.
That you see, it's poetic. Anyway,
It's like poetry in so many
ways.
Anyway, everybody, in the next part, we get introduced to a new cast of characters that I'm sure will become very liked within the community, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, you sound so enthusiastic about this.
Oh, yeah, totally. Tune in next...
I mean, they'll be the next best thing next to Poochie the talking dog.
All right.
Oh, boy.
All right, everybody. Tune in for part 2.
See ya.
See ya.